Welcome each and every one of you. We are delighted to be back with you again, third Wednesday of the month for our Global Chamber Author Series. The thing that's unique about this one for today is that we're doing it in the evening on the East Coast time, 8 p.m., which we have done in the year prior, some at 11 o'clock mostly, and then some at 8 p.m. And what does that do? It really affords us to reach a broader audience live globally. And since we are Global Chamber and our mission is to do business easily as locally as it is across the street, across the globe, this is what we want to do to reach those to engage live across the waters and the pond. And so, with that said, I'd like to share a little bit about Global Chamber, Global Chamber Author Series, myself, and then introduce you to our incredible, extraordinary authors. If you read and saw the advertisement, then you know that it's unique in so many different ways. And if you would, type your name and the city or slash country that you are actually hailing from in the chat. Feel free to do that because what we do during this 55 minutes together is we engage, we connect, we make sure that we leave better than when we arrive for the connections that we've made. So, who are we? We are Global Chamber, the only chamber with 550 metros and growing across the globe. And that's not something that we say lightly, but it's done with great intention, with great focus, zeal, and precision. Our CEO is Doug Brunke, and this is the 10th year of Global Chamber. So happy anniversary, Global Chamber. Our Vice President in Business Development is Cesar Trabanco. He's here and he's going to share a few words as we wrap things up or even throughout the program. So we want to welcome you. And then, so Global Chamber, as I said, we've been an organization for 10 years, and we can share one story after another that really lets you know the meaning of the organization and the connections that are made through soft connections, through Globinars. That's what we're having right now, through meetups. And so, more than likely, there is a Global Chamber Metro in your city. I will share one story because I just think there's so many magical ones. I was traveling to Egypt, and as I was traveling to Egypt prior to getting there, I reached out to our incredible leaders, Cesar and Doug, and I said, "Listen, who do we have in Cairo?" And without any missed step or delay, they made that connection via email. We call it soft introduction. And so they introduced me to our advisor in Cairo. We took it from there. And then as I was traveling with the group, which means, we're on a pretty much schedule and transportation, everything's done collectively. But Omar in Egypt reached out to me, he and his wife, and arranged for me to meet up with them in their neck of the woods in Cairo, which I would not have visited because we had a coordinated schedule. We had the best time. I think over 3 hours, dinner and conversation outside, and so much more. And when you meet with just the intention of making a meaningful connection, I think things happen organically. My background is in healthcare and also as a writer's coach uh, and in tea, right? Tea, the beverage tea. And so I was sharing that with Omar and his wife, and I had given them one of the books that I had written, which was about tea, custom culture as a gift, because, when you show up, you bring a gift. And he shared with me his actual role in his country with helping to export citrus, oranges in particular. Okay. Do you ever think of Egypt and oranges in the same sentence? I hadn't. I promise me it never crossed my mind. So I just made a little record, made a little note that, okay, Omar, citrus, I had nothing else I was going to do with it. But since Global Chamber, what we do organically is to make connections with our business members and others that can help move their business forward. I just said at some point that will come in handy. And so we were traveling from Cairo and flying to Assam and then went over to Luxor on a cruise and then flew back to Cairo. On the way back, there was a lady seated to my left across the aisle, and we had an exchange as we were getting up. And I learned that she was from Spain. And I said, "Oh, so you're going back to Spain?" She goes, "Well, I was going to, but we're having a drought and we're short on citrus and we need to make a connection in Cairo." You've got to be laughing at and smiling like I am right now. I said, "What did you say?" I said, "Oh, I have a connection for you." So before we deplaned, there was an exchange of phone numbers and WhatsApp and introductions that were made. And within 2 days, I connected her with our contact in Cairo for Global Chamber. And they had that business exchange. And then she became a part of our chamber. Yes. Okay, I see that, Cesar. Thank you too. So this is what we do. So I could show you slides to tell you about it, but I thought let me share a story to really make it more organic and how it happens. And then we do a lot of that intentionally. Where's Global Chamber headquarters? We are in Phoenix, Arizona, and Thunderbird, the School of Global Management. We're definitely not just located there by chance. We have an affiliation, and we also have the partnership with the Thunderbird and their 30 locations around the world. So if you look at our 550 metros and growing, and the for connection with Thunderbird, you can see that that reach is pretty extensive. All right, so that's who we are. And about 3 years ago, Gloria Peterson, who's a member of Global Chamber, who had been a member for some time as well, she decided that she realized that we had several authors in the Global Chamber mix, in the tribe, as we call it, but somehow there was not a collection or forum for us to come together, to engage, to connect, to make collaborations. And so she started, under the guidance of our CEO, Doug Brunke, the Global Chamber Author Series well over 3.5 years ago. And I've been a part of that naturally with my affinity for writing and also coaching aspiring authors or even other ones that have written before. And in about a year, let's see, a little over a year and a half ago, yeah, it's been a while now, she passed the torch on to me. So now I head up not only Global Chamber, Atlanta Metro, but the author series. So here we are today, and we have the opportunity to meet every month. And we do it with this Globinar, with a workshop 1 month, and then panel discussion the following month. So tonight, we have three incredible authors that are going to be able to share their story with you. And I've already shared my background and my interests. And if you had to pick one word that described me, just one, I would say a connector. And others would say the same thing. And I've had the privilege of having a mother son duo to speak and keynote at our annual Transformational Writers Conference in Puerto Rico. And the son is here tonight. His name is Virgil Thornton II, or referred to as VJ, but we kind of gave him a new title in Puerto Rico. We call him Sir Virgil, and he lives up to that name in so many ways. But he also we have on tonight two of his siblings, Marissa Thornton, Courtney Thornton. And I know I gave the birth order backwards because you all will have to figure out which of the two are twins. I will not give that away. And in our chat, I see we have several people listing where they are hailing from. So put your name, city, Newport News, Virginia, Alexandria, Virginia, Landover, Maryland, San Juan, Puerto Rico, Atlanta, Georgia, and many others that will be listening in the replay. So we thank you for coming on and joining us tonight. So I want to introduce you to our speakers. And I'm going to have them share a little bit about themselves. And, a lot of times when we do, many of our guests, they don't want to share it. I could read it, but I think if you just share it from your heart, who you are, what you do, then it's just a natural flow. So I won't ask in any birth order, but whomever would like to introduce themselves for us of the Thornton tribe, please feel free to go forward at this moment. Just unmute yourself.
Court, y'all are nodding at me. You want me to go first? Okay. My name is Marissa Thornton. So I am the middle, if you will. So even though I have a twin sister, Courtney, I'm kind of in the middle because I'm a minute younger than she is. So if you count it like that. But I am in the middle, and I do edit books on the side and novels as well. So throughout the what we talk about tonight in our book, I kind of served as the editor for that as well as a writer. Outside of that, I work for the U.S. Census Bureau, been there for the past 8 years now, working with numbers and stats. I am originally from Hampton, Virginia, lived in Alabama for a while, went to the University of Alabama in Birmingham, and then made my way up here to the DC metro area where I've been at for the past 11 years. So,
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marissa. I'll
yeah.
have to talk to you about that UAB and why not Tuscaloosa. But anyway.
Oh.
And who's next of the Thornton tribe?
And
Tito.
I'll go next. I am the eldest of the Thornton tribe, only by a minute more than my sister Marissa. But I hold her to that, and my parents have too. Um, so I'm in Alexandria, Virginia now. I work as a strategist at the Pentagon. I started off working as an engineer. I'm a Hampton University grad, so born in Hampton and went back there for school. And actually, this is the first book that I've ever written. I don't edit, and I've never written books, but I am a creative. I've done a lot with film and film production, worked on a lot of short films for directors in the DC area, working on music videos and just serving in an assistant director or production manager role. So I have worked as a creative and done even some script writing for some short films. And this is my first time really just dabbling in writing a book, so literature. So yeah.
Awesome. You also share, um, you're an alumni with my sister went to Hampton as well, my younger sister. And she and her family were up in Virginia in the military. So she went to school there. Yes, Hampton. All right, so that leaves last but certainly not least, as I refer to as Sir Virgil.
Yeah.
He's the knight.
Thank you. Yes, hey everyone. I'm Virgil. I'm the youngest of the Thornton tribe. I've had quite a lot of really good, really fun experience in writing since I was younger. Just being able to, whether it's write in class or make short stories and things of that nature and YouTube videos online. And then that sort of built up into a publishing company where I've been able to publish some of my books. I've been able to encourage my friends and family to write and publish as well. So it's been a really beautiful experience, and hopefully it's just onward and upward from here.
Awesome. I'm holding in my hand at this moment one of your books, one of your novels.
Yes, nice.
Tell us a little bit, tell the audience a little bit about the Tales of Vagari and
Right.
then the genre. I want to start with that, and then we'll hop off into you all's book that you've done collectively.
Sure, sounds good. Yeah, so Tales of Vagari, that is the second book in my sort of adventure sci-fi fantasy series. I started when I was much younger, and it's still going on now. Book three just came out earlier this year, actually. It's it's about a lot of things. It's about some kids getting together trying to save the world, and they, of course, that's not an easy task, so they run into all sorts of different hijinks. Um, so yeah, it's
Awesome.
mhm.
I love it. It's beautiful when family can give you props. I'll speak to the props in a minute. So the reason why I wanted you to mention this series and even with your new release this year to Sir Virgil is because this sci-fi book is very uniquely different from your collective work, your collaboration that you've done together, Black of Mind. And so my first question is, as a multi-published author and publisher, how did you come together as siblings to first collaborate on this project? Because what we want a takeaway in this Globinar today is collaborations. because we all have experiences and creative like Courtney and she's a creative that's also numbers oriented. Sometimes that creative one doesn't come out as strong when you're numbers oriented. And then also creative as Marissa. How do you all just say, let's get together and let's do this? I know by the way, I need to mention your mother, Dr. Michelle Boone Thornton, who's a member of Global Chamber and also has been a part and a keynote speaker at our Transformational Writers Conference. She's the one that birthed these three miracles, is what I'm going to call them. So, how did the three of you, as siblings with very different and unique thoughts, ideas, experiences, decide, let's come together and let's do a book? And how did you decide on the genre?
Well, I'm going to sort of cheat a little bit here by kind of passing the baton to Courtney because she was really the mastermind, the puppeteer, if you will, of this operation. She was. I'm not going to steal your thunder, Courtney. I'm just going to give a little bit of an overview. She was deploying out to the Middle East for quite some time, a couple of months, and she wanted to stay in contact with us because she was like, she'll be out there and maybe it might be difficult making phone calls and stuff. And so she was like, why don't we instead write something? And we'll do it over like Google Docs so that we can rely on Wi-Fi and stuff. And that'll be sort of like our sibling activity to sort of stay in contact frequently. So that's how the book was born. Uh, Courtney,
Courtney, would
Yeah, I mean, you did a great job, VJ. You did a great job. But yeah, pretty much, I knew I was leaving for 6 months to go over to Qatar, and I traveled quite a bit for work. But this was different. This was a civilian deployment, and so it's in the Middle East, and on the military base in the Middle East. I wasn't sure what the communications would be like. I knew we would be somewhere between 7 to 8 hour difference, just because of like daylight savings over here. And
mm-hmm.
so I just wanted a way for us to be able to stay connected as siblings. I didn't know if we would be able to talk over the phone. And I thought, well, I know that I'll have Wi-Fi. Like VJ said, I know I'll have Wi-Fi. I know they have Wi-Fi. And so let's do something creative in a way that we can, commit to and stay connected while over there. And so I thought, you know what, let's start this story. What V didn't really go into, what Sir Virgil didn't really go into, is that we never really sat down and talked about the plot, the characters, or anything for the story. It was really more like a relay, if you will, or almost like popcorn style. I started the story, the first couple of pages, and then after that, literally, my sister, shared it with my sister and brother. My sister looked at the first few pages. She added a few pages to it. My brother looked at a couple of pages. He added to it, and we just kind of kept relaying it back to each other. So I won't go too much into the ground rules because I think that's in some of the questions you have for us. But that was the gist of kind of, how Black of the Mind was born and where it really started from.
I love it. And I love that your intention was to stay connected, even abroad. And so our Globinar title tonight is, cross borders collaboration. So this truly was a cross borders collaboration. One, not because you all live in different cities, states, but you now were in a different country. And it's a totally different culture. So doing that type of collaboration is really germane to what we do in Global Chamber on the business side. And we certainly want to encourage that more on the writing side. So you all are an inspiration to us as an organization for the Global Chamber Author Series. So thank you for that. I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to add to that, Marissa. I certainly want to give you an opportunity. And
Well,
then
I
if
was going to say what the ground rules were, but I think that might be coming later. So
okay,
I think they both covered that well. Yeah.
okay. Well, this I'm gonna ask the next question, which may lead into that. What was the writing process or the ground rules for you all to actually do this collaboration together?
So I'll kick that off, which Courtney did set that up as well. We couldn't write over 3 pages, so we didn't want any one person to overtake the story. We couldn't share what we were going to write. It was literally just reading what the previous person wrote and then kind of building from that. So it was a very fun activity that turned into a book. So that kind of is what the process was. I don't think early on we were thinking book. I think we were just thinking staying connected. But midway through, we were like, I think we've got a book here. So we finished it out and then of course went back, cleaned it up and edited it. But the primary rule was don't go over 3 pages and don't kind of share, if you will, what you're writing on. It just is almost like a blind read. You go in and the first time you're looking at it is when you're about to write. So
Oh, that's a pretty interesting process too. As a writer's coach and as I guide and coach aspiring entrepreneurs, they generally have a sense of who their target audience is, certainly their genre. And in this case, you all were doing it from a place of keeping in touch. And then, had this moment, this eureka moment where you said, I think we got something here. And hey, you've got an editor in the family, you have a publisher in the family, you have a creative, and then you have previously published parents in the family. So it was inevitable that you all would have to kind of join the bandwagon, the sisters, because everybody else was already doing it. But I really like the motivation behind it. So my next thought and question, and if anyone in the audience would like to ask questions, you can feel free to put it in the chat, or if you'd like to, just unmute yourself, and certainly we can pause to engage because that's the intention of why we're here today, is to engage. But my question, as others decide if they're going to open their mics or put in the chat, is how did you decide on the genre? Because here we're coming from a 3-time author for a sci-fi, and this is certainly no sci-fi. And I have something to share with you as I was reading this, my experience and as a writer and a reader. So how did you decide on the genre?
Yeah, so I'll start and then you can continue with it, VJ. So, I kicked off the storyline, introduced the main character, and for me, it's always been important to highlight, Black women in STEM fields. So that's where the character came from. But I think the genre and kind of that suspense, that mystery comes more so from what I'm surrounded by every day. I work at the Pentagon and there's a lot of mystique that surrounds the Pentagon and, what is everyone working on? What are these projects? And there's always this sense of something more that's not being told, from
Mhm,
person to person. You pass these people in the hallway, you're working on things, they're working on things, nobody knows what's really going on.
mhm,
And Marissa and Virgil have both visited the Pentagon. They know there's a lot of, this room is classified, this is secret, top secret. So there's a lot of things that come in, working there every day, just being in that environment, being a part of that. And I really just wanted to kind of pull that energy and be able to just place it in the story. So we kind of just started off on that with an introduction of the character. And then by the time I, handed it off to Marissa, we were already kind of like knee deep in a mystery.
Oh man. Well, it's definitely a mystery. And I have a little write up I was going to email to you all, but I'm going to share it and then also open the mic for questions. And then we'll continue, or if you'll have something you'd like to add as well. So here I was, tucked away in the love seat of my guest room, comfortable and cozy as I held in my hand Lack of Mine. And in my other hand, I had these classic pickle corn puffs. And with every one that I placed in my mouth, subconsciously, I went from one line to the next. Can't wait to see what the next twist and turn would be. And before I knew it, the bag of corn puffs were empty, but the story was full. I mean, I love it. I love, love, love how you've done it. And you've given something away, Courtney, that I was going to ask. And I think I know I've been privy to this before, but didn't remember because I hadn't read the book yet, right? So I was going to say, who wrote which chapter mostly? And I know you said you couldn't do more than 3 pages because that's the ground rules that you all had set and Marissa shared with us. But did you all basically say, this one has this chapter a little bit more heavily written than the other? Because I would venture now with what you shared is that you wrote the first 3 pages of the first chapter. Is that correct?
yeah. Oh, go ahead,
And
Courtney. So she did. So she wrote the first 3 pages. I don't know if there was one chapter that one person wrote more than the other, but if our mom was on, she would tell you we have different personalities. So depending on the ebb and flow of the book, you could probably fill out who might have written what. So VJ, I've edited a ton of his stuff, quite creative. Courtney, quite creative. I'm more of an enhancer and a flow. So in the books where things tick up, it's probably Courtney or VJ. But when things calm out, it's probably me that wrote it. So
Uh,
it was less of the chapters and more of the tone in the book.
I love that
Yeah.
explanation. Hmm. And I'm there for the tick up. Me and my corn puffs. I was like, oh my God,
Yes.
they're going down the hall. What did Devin say? Is this niece real? I'm not giving the story away, but I'm asking these questions as I'm reading. Was she a plant? Oh my gosh. So how does it feel when you hear others that have read your stories, your book, and how it has moved them, and what of your careers has influenced this? And I know you started that off, Courtney, about working at the Pentagon and all the mystique. So I'm going to let you kick that off. But each of you are in a position, in the government, where I would say you have to keep quite a bit of the information confidential. And is any of this factual, if you can say?
So I'll kick it off really quickly, just to continue on from yes, pull the mystique from the Pentagon. There are parts of it that are semi-factual. Some of the, Taiwan issues, like the geopolitical issues that I threw in there, those are actual issues that we, have. But, some of the more AI functions and things that's more, that's fiction, but the I'm sorry, the some of the things that are going on right now as far as Taiwan, that's actual nonfiction, but the things that are happening with like the AI and the girl and the technology and that sort of thing, as far as I know, that's that is fiction. So I'm not I can't neither confirm or deny.
Okay. The mystery continues. I need one of you or all three of you at some point to post the link for the book in this um, chat, if you will. Oh man, let me tell you, Black of Mind is a good page turner. Okay. And you were talking about the geopolitical issues. When it comes to doing business, cross borders, trade, global chamber, we have to be very mindful of what's going on in that region of the world from a geopolitical perspective. So you really kind of speak to the awareness that we have when we want to foster relationships. So my next question is, well, hold on, I didn't get the other two to share from their business background that contribute to the book, if you would. And then there's questions in the chat we'll address next.
So for me, I kind of came in with Dr. Devin Crawford is she's a scientist that works for the government, and while I'm sort of an engineer at the National Institutes of Health, I still, there's a ton of researchers and scientists that work there, and so it was interesting to sort of try and um, all about and see what their daily life is, and then also look up certain things as well. Like I'd always usually been focused on the task at hand, but for this book, I was like, well, I work with government scientists. Why not sort of explore and see what their day to day is like, what it what it would be like to be a full time researcher, and then weave that into Dr. Crawford's story in the book, which I thought was a pretty fun thing to be able to do.
Yes. Any of your colleagues read your book and go, wait a minute.
Not yet. It's mostly been my friends. I'm thinking about slowly integrating it into the office though. See what they think.
There's a T-shirt I read, I saw a couple years ago, and it says, "Be careful what you say. You may end up in my book."
Exactly.
Oh, and what about you, Marissa, from your career perspective? What from your career bled over into the book?
So the Census Bureau being primarily population counts, I feel like a lot of what we do is tell the story of the nation and of people. So within the book, I actually introduce a lot of the other characters outside of Devin to bring in some of the depth and round out the story. So to bring those other voices in there. So.
I love it. The diversity is certainly represented there. Um, so we've got some questions in the chat. So let me go ahead and raise that. And thank you for posting the link to the book. I certainly recommend you guys that are on and those listening to replay, click the link and take the next 2 steps to take you on this adventure. What were each of your favorite single lines to write out of context, of course, like a line of dialogue or description that really um, scratched an itch in your brain? Thank you for raising that question too, Nayanika.
Uh, so I think the dialogue that I like, I don't have the one-liner here, but there's some um dialogue where there's a character that's introduced named Trey, and let's just say there's a lot of things going on with Trey that the audience doesn't really quite know. It's very peculiar. So he has this interaction with Gabe, who is another character, and their first interaction with each other is just very eerie. It's very strange. If you're reading it, you feel uncomfortable, but you also don't want to stop turning the pages because you're like, this is so, it's so often cringy, but it's also wonderful. And so I think that's like definitely that dialogue. I had just a fun time writing that. Yeah.
Awesome. Anybody else has like a one-liner or uh, just a concept that it really stands out that you like the most?
I would say more concept would be the nosy neighbor, Miss Sims, and then Devin's sister, Sandra. So I
Mhm.
don't think we intended to include a comical aspect, but I do feel like when both of those characters were introduced and when they are brought up throughout the book, it brings about a bit of a comedic feel to it. So that was fun with writing both of them.
Oh, I mean, your own approach is so unique. I really appreciate the creativity there, but more so the intent, how it started off at one thing and then it evolved to something greater. So here are some other questions that we have in the chat I'd like to share as well. How long did it take each one of you to write the 3 pages before turning it over to the next sibling? Great question, Marissa. The other Marissa Gregory. Thank you.
I I can start us off here. So the thing that'll trip people up when they're trying to figure out who wrote what is because they'll hear 3 pages and they'll think like, oh, this is there's like 3 pages of this, but when we were writing it, it was the 8.5 by 11 size, and we had to downsize it to this. So
Mm.
it might bleed over a little bit or less, so it'll keep you on your toes. But in terms of like actually writing it, it went pretty quickly. It was like I want to say each person got their stuff turned around in around a week, maybe a little bit less or more, depending on if things got busy. But
Mm.
it was pretty easy to stay on that cadence because it was a pleasure to write and to sort of. It was always a thing of like at the end of the week, it's like, okay, what do they have for me? What sort of craziness have they put in there? And then you read it, and then you're like, okay, how can I make this crazy and wild for the person who comes after me. So it was like a little a little treat each week. So I think the cadence
Oh,
was pretty good there.
I like that cadence in terms of, I'm sure many of us have been in some type of icebreaker or an activity where, you know, you say the first 3 words and then somebody else has to add to it and add to it, and you never know where the story's going to go. But it's always, um, I think it's fun and it can be funny, it could be eerie, it could be so many different things. And, taking the course the way you all did has made for a really good read. Yeah. Anybody
Yeah,
else on
so
that line?
I can add on to that. VJ said most of the time we had it turned around within a week. I think just the portions that I wrote didn't take long to get to the 3 pages. It was more so trying to keep it within 3 pages.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And so in the beginning, I'd say it definitely came a lot easier because you were still kind of building the groundwork, introducing the characters, kind of, building that storyline. But once you kind of got to the arc a little bit, it became a little bit more difficult because you wanted to keep the continuity. Like Marissa mentioned, there's some characters that she, introduced in the book. V introduced some complexities, to the storyline. It became a little more difficult to. Uh-oh, did I freeze up?
We can hear you now. You
Uh-oh,
froze
did I
just for a little
freeze?
bit, but you're good.
Okay. There's a little bit of a thunderstorm, happening out here, but I'll be quick just in case I freeze again. As there were more complexities, there were more characters and things in the storyline to kind of keep that continuity. It became a little bit more difficult to kind of turn around those 3 pages in a quick amount of time. It's like, okay, you have to read it, maybe read some of the previous chapters and kind of really synthesize it, ingest it, and then go, okay, this is how I want to add on to the story in a way that makes sense. I think
Mhm.
once I understood it, kind of really knew what I wanted to do with it, I was able to get the 3 pages out in no time. But it was more so, it just got a little more complex because we threw a lot of mystery in there. And so, just wanted to keep that continuity.
Absolutely. We got you to tie that up before the thunderstorm muted you again. So thank you for that, Courtney. Marissa, what
Yeah.
was your 3-page journey like?
So for me, so I would say, since again, I don't know if I'm the most creative person, I'm pretty good at enhancing and flow. So coming after Courtney was tough, but then after it went through VJ and Courtney again, and then I got it, I think out of like that week time frame, the first 6.5 days was me trying to figure out how to process what they just wrote so I can respond to it. Because they were definitely builders, like building, building, building. So at some point, I'm like, okay, we got to level out, or we got to take a breather, or something's got to happen. Because again, all the turnips in the book was definitely them. So I think in terms of once I figured out what I was going to write or what angle to take it, actually writing it only took 20 minutes or so. It wasn't too bad. The biggest part was trying to figure out how to take it, how to angle it, and determine, do we still want to build it, or do we need to level this out or bring it down, or, wrap it up? So that was kind of my focus when I got my turn. So yeah.
Yeah, very, very interesting too. Like each of you said, you had to read what the prior contributor wrote. You want to still stay in the same, somewhat tone, so the book sound like it's just one unified book, and and then take it to a whole different level, or add a different perspective. And at this moment, I'm coaching a group through a business anthology. But my challenge is very uniquely different from yours because they are expert in that particular chapter. So they write on that, and we offer guidelines on like word count and um, things that they need to be sure they address or offer the reader. And like yours are uniquely different because you're building and building, blending one story. Absolutely. So this is done well. And then we also have a comment here um, from Terry, who is also in Utah. Terry, let's see here. I saw your comment, Debbie. I'm looking. Here we are. So our motto for Global Chamber is be global and unstoppable. So you all fall in that category right now because you're definitely global and unstoppable because you do this, as he suggests, by learning from books and opening your mind to world and culture. So you are our global chamber already. And any other comments or questions that someone wants to open their mic or put in the chat. And what I wanted to acknowledge also was the comment by Sir Virgil being studied under the great Nikki Giovanni. I couldn't let that rest. We cannot let that rest. I remember meeting her a few years, maybe about 6 years ago, roughly, I think 6 years ago at Emory in Atlanta, my alma mater. And I've been a fan of her her writings for years, and her style has changed. And I will ask you, what was it like studying under her? And then also, have you seen any changes in your style of writing, Sir Virgil, since you published before?
What was it like studying under her? It was an incredibly unique experience. It was like I was in it was like I was in a college class and my grandma was teaching and I it felt like I was just sitting back on the porch with a bunch of friends, just
Hmm.
shooting the breeze, listening to some wisdom from an elder. That's pretty much what it felt like. It was a I it, the atmosphere in the classroom was different than any other class I've ever been in. It was very cozy. It was a very, very cozy class. And she made you feel like you could write anything. Anything was possible.
Mhm.
What you could make your dreams reality easily. You could craft those words into what you wanted. You just had to coax them there. And that's sort of what I think she imparted the most on my writing. Because
Mhm.
after her class is when I published Tales of Vagari, and pretty much
Ah,
when my company started to, churn out more and more books with like Fables of Four and all the writing and stuff was after that class, showing me that writing didn't have to be this big daunting thing. It could be fun. It could be cozy. I could
mhm.
bring my dreams to life, and it didn't have to be some sort of intimidating task.
So she was your definitely an inspiration, a muse even, to help you realize that you have a story inside of you to tell and that the world awaits it. There's a particular niche, a particular audience for each book, and they're waiting. They're waiting for each of us to tell their story, tell your stories. We have some authors on the line as well. Um, I'm going to just mention Terry Morrison. I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm just mentioning it because I really like your book as well, because it really speaks to culture and understanding culture when you're wanting to do business. And their book, being written across borders, took in consideration the geopolitical climates and so forth. If you care to comment, Terry, we welcome you to unmute yourself or speak to even the book that the trio has done. But I just wanted to extend that invitation and recognize you.
You are so gracious, Dana. Consistently just a superstar in this venue. And I'm honored to be a fly on the wall, really. I'm just enjoying listening to you. And I'm sorry I wasn't here from the inception of the conversation. But yeah, the most valuable thing in my world is to be open to other patterns of communication and ethnicities and religious sensibilities and the value that everybody brings when they work together. You all seem to be, you know, having enjoying a great synergy here, which I miss my co-authors. I had co-authors for Kiss Bower, Shake Hands in the series, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, my last co-author passed away and sub COVID. So I kind of envy you all. You're all amazing,
They rock. I mean,
right?
and as you do as well. And if you would just put your link in the chat as well, because this is another book that's a must have, right?
Thank you. I'd be happy to. Yeah.
Um, and you have a co-author right here. I'm not really
Thank
so
you, Dana. Now
thank you.
don't tempt me. It'll happen.
Oh my gosh. You know, time moves so quickly when you're having fun. And I think when you wrap things up at the end of the day, um, with connecting, being intentional, sharing a story, being authentic, and looking to connect and engage, it really resonates and brings joy. So for me, it's been joyful. I know we're not done yet. I've got at least one more question that I have, and I want to entertain one more question or comment from the audience. And then our CEO, Doug Brunke, is on, and I'd like to have him be able to comment or tie the loose ends up. So here's my final question, I think. No, it's going to be two in one. Okay. What advice do you have for others wanting to co-author a book? What advice do you all have for others wanting to co-author a book? Because what they may not have is the same bloodline. They may have not grown up together as siblings where you can kind of, you know one another. You can anticipate what the other might say or do, even in the writing. So that continuity is easier I think it can be easier when you're related. So what advice do you have for others wanting to co-author a book?
Where you gonna go? I can go. So from the editor lens, I'm quick to recommend chopping something or rewriting. And I think if you're writing with someone else, being open to potentially sacrificing a thought or an idea that you may have, for maybe something that they have within. Somebody noted it in the comment about the editing process, and that was where it got real for us, where it's like, okay, what are we about to chop? What are we going to, tweak and that sort of thing. So I think when you're co-writing, of course, it's not just yours now, it's you and how many other people, which means that there could be an idea or a concept or something that either gets rewritten or flexed in a different way or gets chopped altogether. So just kind of having an open mind and kind of being ready to be flexible, I think would be a big thing.
Oh, that's huge because writing is so personal, right? This is my story. I'm writing from the depth of my soul. I'm a little dramatic here, but you're sharing your personal ideas and and making yourself vulnerable. So also being open, as you said to Marissa, to allowing some things to be removed if it doesn't um, lend itself to the story, for continuity, for building it, and so forth. So that does take a little bit of, hmm, I guess, humility and surrender. Yeah, for the big picture. Any one of you want to comment on that? And there's another comment and question I'm gonna read here before
Yeah,
it's over.
I'll definitely piggyback off you, Marissa. For one, we're definitely twins because you were in my head with that answer. But um, I would definitely say to trust your co-author. So one thing we did is we didn't micromanage each other, and we didn't actually critique one another until the entire book was written, until the story was
Mhm.
finished. And so it's so easy sometimes, especially when the stories start to really get good, you want to kind of take control of it a little bit because you're like, oh, this is really good. As a creative, it just sparks so many thoughts on what you can do with it. But it's really just trusting your co-author and knowing that, listen, they're going to add an experience or a twist or turn that you could have never thought of. And it's going to make the experience so much better. It's going to make the story so much better. So that would be my advice is if you're going to co-author, you have to trust your co-authors and knowing that at the end of the day, you guys are going to collectively be able to create a masterpiece.
Yes, trust your co-authors is what I took away from that, Courtney. And I would add, as one of my fellow authors, Crystal Lee says all the time, trust the process. Trust the process. And communication is the vital part of that, right? And so we've got two comments and a combination of questions. So I'm going to do my best to share this one as Marissa ties up that last segment of the question. Oh, no, Sir Virgil, sorry. Marissa went first.
Oh, gotcha. Um, yeah, so with co-authors, I would say, um, so I've been blessed to write a couple of books with some others, and I would say the experience of writing Black and Mine with Courtney and Marissa is very different, I think, from co-authoring something with people that you did not grow up with. Um, that process would be one where I think you would need a lot more patience because people have different expectations, people have different schedules. With
Mhm.
Courtney and Marissa, we've worked together on so many projects in the past. We all just sort of kind of locked into it, if you will. It was almost certain things are just sort of like mentally linked. Like we just kind of knew, like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. With other projects I've been in, it's definitely been like you need to be clear, you need to repeat yourself, you need to have patience as well as
Mhm.
having that sort of knowing when to take your foot off the gas pedal that Courtney and Marissa were talking about as well.
Oh, yes. Oh, just gems and nuggets that you guys are depositing tonight and even in our audience as well. So the takeaway is to be patient, and everyone's not in your mind like a sibling if you're not related. Be patient with them and be clear on the expectations. So here it says, this is by, I think this is by one of your classmates. She says the writing section, And which of you threw out the idea that this could be a book? She said, I have my guess since I went to school with Sir Virgil, but I could be surprised. Which of you threw out the idea that this communication intention could be a book?
I think we might have all kind of
I
thought
think
that
it was
like midway
definitely
through.
VJ. It was
Was it
definitely
V?
VJ.
Was it V?
Virgil
Okay.
was like, we're gonna publish this. It was
Okay.
definitely
Yeah,
Of course,
I
the
mean,
publisher would say that.
yeah, we were cooking together this really, really strong story, and I'm like, we're not just gonna write a story and then what throw it away. Like we got to do something with this. So I guess yeah, it was kind of be, but group effort. We got the story there together.
We wouldn't expect anything less from the publisher.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the final question in the chat, if your protagonist were to read their own story, I love these. You guys are just the bomb. If the protagonist were to read their own story, what's the one piece of advice they give you about writing it? Ah,
I think I know.
Catan wrote that one. Go ahead.
Um, I think Dr. Crawford would want us to slow down some. She would want to be able to take a weekend to herself to just relax, maybe a week where nothing crazy happens. Because a lot of insane stuff happens in her life in the span of like 2 weeks. Like it gets really crazy.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
think she would definitely be like, hey, let's slow it down a little bit. I'd like a breather.
Oh, I like that advice. And I could see her actually giving that advice too, because it was one thing after another. I'm going, well, you turn around and you're here, and then in the bar, and in the whole, yeah, it's like the next day or within the next 2 hours, someone's knocking at the door. And any of you would add to that, please?
So we are siblings. I was going to say the same thing. And I think in the book where you do see some breathers and breaks, I was probably already in tune to this question here to give her a break. So yes, she probably need a little breather or stretch this story out over 2 years' time and not a shorter time frame. So yeah.
Sound advice. Great question. And
so I'm gonna say
yes, Courtney.
yes, I'm going to say just I think that she would like yeah, she would have liked a breather, but I think that she would have liked that rewarded her in the end. So there was a lot
Mhm.
that happened over these 2 weeks, but the reward at the end was all worth it. She got the promotion, she made this groundbreaking research, and so yeah, it was agility test for a 2 week time period, but would you really want to just go through this for 2 years, or would you rather get it over in 2 weeks and get a reward afterward? I think if I'm her,
Mm,
she just likes that this got over, quick enough, and she was, rewarded handsomely for it. So,
absolutely. So very sound advice. And when you're looking back, kind of like a retrospective now, and the book is out published, it may influence you all for your next book, because I believe there should be another one to follow.
Yes.
I
Which will be based on true events. So we do have an idea. Yes.
can't wait. Look, I've always wanted to be on the inside of the Pentagon and the insides of the going on. All right, Black of Mine, how did you come up with that title?
That's a VJ Courtney question. One of y'all, I knew it wasn't me. I'm the enhancer, not the creative.
it's definitely a Sir Virgil question. You came up with Black of the Mind.
Yeah. So it was it was a brute force method. I was like, we got to come up with a title. I was throwing out titles. My sisters were not enjoying those titles. I was like, just back and forth. And I had to like really, really think about what's at the core of the book, right? And like a lot of the characters, their black identity, black experience makes up a lot of the
Mhm.
perspective of the book. It's like, okay, black. And then there are I don't want to spoil too much, but there are
Yeah, don't give it all away.
mental sciences and other effects, if you will, in the book. So I was like, there's mind things. And then I'm like, okay, black and mind, can we make something out of that? And then I'm like, okay, wait a sec. Like, back of the mind is like a saying, and a lot of things happen that Devin notices that she stores in the back of her mind for later. And I'm like, okay, wait. Black of the mind, boom. And then there was silence, and then my sisters were like, "Yeah, okay, that works." I'm like, "Okay, there we go." So that's how we put it together.
Thank you for that. And I want to thank you all for this beautiful mug that is certainly appropriate for any hot beverage. For me, it would be tea, and sometimes a little cafe or chocolate. Um, this has been an incredible experience. And Terry, thank you for sharing your link. So if you all want to reach out to the trio, then there's two ways you can do it. A, their book link is here. Two, you can also go to the website. If you would post that, please, Sir Virgil. And then also in our story, our newsletter for Transformation Writers Academy, we featured the trio and this newsletter that came out yesterday, and it has each of their emails. So we'll post that in the LinkedIn follow up, and I'll post it on the Global Chamber authors chat for WhatsApp. Doug, if you could, if you're available, to offer us some last comments or questions, that would be greatly appreciated.
This has been such an inspirational and amazingly powerful conversation, Dana. Thank you for bringing this story to us. The teamwork involved and the interplay that needed to happen is inspiring. It really is. And in today's world, there's lots going on, and it's a great example that we can work together and we can create things together in such a beautiful way. And so thank you for sharing this story. It's been extraordinary.
Thank you so much, Guy, our incredible CEO. And we're saying happy anniversary to Global Chamber, 10 years. And we look forward to each of you joining us for our next Global Chamber author series. It will be the third Wednesday. The next one will be at 11 a.m. So if you're able to join that live, that's great. If not, there will be a replay option so you can listen then. If you also like to be featured and be a part of our Global Chamber author series, reach out to us. You can reach me at dana@globalchamber.org. I'll put it in the chat, or on LinkedIn. You can find me there as well. Or you can reach out to globalchamber.org as well, and on our website, and reach out to our group, and we'll follow up with you. We certainly like to invite you to be a part of Global Chamber as a member as well. That can be done on the website, globalchamber.org. Is it .com our email, Doug? I can't remember right now. Dana@globalchamber.com, right?
So, say it again.
My email, is it .com or .org?
It's .org.
.org. Okay, it escaped me
Yep.
just for a minute. Thank you so much. So to Courtney in the birth order, to Marissa in the birth order, to Sir Virgil in the birth order, we thank you immensely. This has been an incredible Global Chamber series, and each one gets better. I don't know how. I can only attribute it to our guests and what you bring, and also to our audience for engaging, because the questions and the engagement is only as good as those that's there to be able to ask them, to share comments and input. And thank you to Terry for being sharing your expertise in writing and cultural enrichment and awareness. So to each of you, and Terry in Utah, you didn't say anything this time, but next time, you're next. Thank you, and hope you all have a wonderful day, a beautiful evening. But whatever you do, stay engaged and write on. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. See you soon.